Welcome to our regular scheduled city council meeting. If you'll please stand for the invocation and then the Pledge of Allegiance. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this great community. I thank you for the men and women that are gathered here this evening, and I ask for prayers of protection for our officers and our firefighters and all of our first responders. I especially want to thank you for your blessings of your son in this time of year and what that means for us and for me. I ask for the showing of love and gratitude and community spirit as we go through this season of holiday and Christmas. I ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next on our agenda this evening, I believe our city manager has some new staff members to introduce. Do we have that this evening, Scott?
We do, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, and good evening, Mayor and Council. I have one introduction that I'll do, and then Chief Tro will introduce a new non-officer, a new employee. I'll leave that introduction to him as well as our swearing-in ceremony. So I would like to introduce to you Parker Smelzer. If you could stand up for just a second. Parker is a new worker with our Parks Department, maintenance worker, full-time position. He worked for us seasonally over the summer, has been in the community for the last 4 years, worked right across the street at Cutforth, I believe, for a few years, and then got on with us as a seasonal employee and impressed well enough that when we had a full-time opening, he was the candidate that was awarded that position. So we're very happy to welcome him to our staff team. Thanks, Parker. And then again,
Welcome.
Again, Chief Tro, when he does the swearing in, he'll also introduce our new police records specialist. So I'll leave that.
Do you want me to do that right now? Introduce her? Sure.
Sure, George, go for it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to introduce our new police records specialist, Amy Strasser. When you stand up or wave, right back in the corner. You can stay there, you don't have to come up here.
Welcome.
She just started on Monday, so she is a brand new employee, but we're really happy to have her. She's originally from the Midwest, I think she was raised in Indiana. She has lived in Canby for about 2 years now with her husband and has a total of 6 kids, which I'm sure keep them busy. 3 live at home still. Her background is in social work. She came to us from Clackamas County Behavioral Health. She worked there for the last, I think, 5 or 6 years, and she was highly recommended by our mental health specialist, Brandon, who also worked there with her. I know she's happy about cutting her commute time from her house to our department, and we're happy to have her join our team. So welcome, Amy.
Any others?
That's it.
Okay,
Then
great.
Yep. Just the swearing in then.
That was exciting with so many people here. I had no idea who was going to stand up.
I know. Well, to the new staff members, welcome. Thank you very much for joining our team. We really are glad that you're here, and we're busy. You guys will be busy, so appreciate you being here. Next on the agenda is a swearing-in ceremony for officers Justin House and Chris Davis, and I believe that George, you're taking care of that.
Back up again.
Here we go, Chief.
Council, I'll stand over here, I think. Good enough, everybody. So we have swearing in 2 new police officers tonight. This is one's filling a vacancy. We actually, unfortunately, had an officer that came to us from Portland. He went back to Portland here recently. They were offering some bonuses that I think that he couldn't refuse. But in our loss, we got another great officer to join us. So the other position is a backfill. We promoted one of our officers to sergeant, Chris Sharmoda here, and did in front of the council. And so that's a backfill of that position. So I'm going to first bring out Officer Chris Davis. Why don't you stand up, Chris? So Chris just started a few weeks ago on November 14th. He is currently in his field training stage and working with a field training officer to learn Canby and our procedures. Chris grew up in Clackamas County. He attended the Powerhouse Sports, it's really more like kind of junior college, but
Yes.
Central Catholic High School. He attended Western Oregon State University, where he majored in criminal justice. He also played some rugby for them, right? Chris is a lateral police officer from the city of Hubbard. So this is, with a lateral, we don't have to send him to the police academy. I believe it's Chief Dave Rash here.
It's his birthday today, so he's.
So Chief Rash is often at Gwynn's Coffee House. He's the chief of Hubbard. And so I was going to thank him for letting us take Chris away from him.
I'm sure he appreciates that.
I owe him lots of copies. He chose police work because it gives him the opportunity to give back to the community. He feels fortunate to work in Canby due to this close-knit community and support it gives law enforcement and the high standards of our department. Chris is engaged to his fiancée Bailey, who I believe is here tonight. And if you want to introduce her.
This is Bailey, everybody.
Thanks for being here tonight, Bailey. So Chris and Bailey have 2 dogs. They enjoy hiking and fishing. And Chris is also a big sports fan, and his favorite teams are the Blazers, Seahawks, and Mariners. I noticed you didn't say either the Ducks or the Beavers. You like any of those?
I was happy about the Civil War result.
Yes! It was a good hire. All right, we're going to have you stay right here, and I'm going to invite the next officer, Justin House, to come up. We're going to have Judge Graf swear him in together. So. All right, Justin started with us on October 24th. He is currently attending a pre-police academy, and he's scheduled to start the basic police academy down in Salem in February. The academy has been backed up several months to get people there. So a little bit about Justin. So he moved to Oregon about 4 years ago from North Carolina, long ways. He has been a youth pastor for the last 12 years, and most recently worked at Oregon City Evangelical for the last 4. He wanted a career change, and he chose law enforcement because he wanted to continue to make a difference in his community. He chose Canby because of the strong community relationships, innovation, and quality of our training, and he's excited for his future and ready to get going. Justin is married to Megan, who I think is here, right? And he has 2 wonderful children, a daughter, Brindley, right? And a newborn son, Abram.
It's a little bean.
And I think you also have some friends here too, right? Yeah. Thanks for coming tonight. Justin enjoys the outdoors, one of the reasons he moved to Oregon. And he likes to spend time hiking, skiing, and fishing, and he did know not catching, so. All right, we'll have Judge Graf come on up and swearing in.
So I've been told to have you guys come over here by this microphone so they can hear us at home, okay? And then, do you have the certificates for me?
Yes.
Okay. So raise your right hands, Joan. Repeat after me. I state your names.
I, Justin Davis,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and uphold
that I will support and uphold
the constitutions of the United States
the constitutions of the United States
and the state of Oregon,
and the state of Oregon,
the charter and ordinances of the city of Canby,
the charter and ordinances of the city of Canby,
remaining in compliance with the professional standards
remaining in compliance with the professional standards
established by the department's mission,
established by the department's mission,
values, and professional code of ethics,
values, and professional code of ethics,
department policies and directives,
the department policies and directives,
and will faithfully perform the duties
and will faithfully perform the duties
of police officer for the city of Canby, Oregon.
of police officers for the city of Oregon
That's always a tough one. To the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So this one is These guys sign like they went to law school. You can't read it. Look at that, boy. One more. Thanks for the fun.
All right. So I think we're gonna have Bailey come and get the badge.
Jose blocked my shot.
I'll just steal it from Jamie.
Yeah.
Paparazzi.
I definitely like have to take a picture first, but I'll take one also. I work for the city, by the way.
Tell her she's just a fan. Watch it happen.
Welcome, Chris. Is there anything you'd like to say?
I just want to say I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be here. One of the things that appealed to me was how close-knit the Canby community is and the relationship that the department has with the community. That's something that I feel is fulfilling in the law enforcement career. I just feel really thankful and grateful for the opportunity to work for Canby and hopefully get to know all of you a little better.
Welcome.
Welcome. Congratulations.
Thanks.
All right. And I think Megan, you're gonna come up and put the badge on Justin. Oh, and you're gone. Special.
That'll work. It's fine.
All right. Are you even smiling and everything? Good job. I'll make sure that your dad gets these pictures.
Welcome, Justin.
Yeah, I'll kind of echo a lot of what Chris said, but I'm super excited for the opportunity and thank you for that. Thank you to my wife for supporting me and also to all of our friends. You guys mean a lot to us. So excited to work in Canby, excited to get going. It's kind of a long process, but super excited for the opportunity and to be here and to serve the community and really hope to make a difference and an impact on people.
Welcome.
Well, congratulations. Thanks, Chief. Next on the agenda is the Canby Fire District Life-Saving Recognition. Mr. Dale, hello, sir.
Nice entrance.
Mayor, councilors, thank you for having me, Canby. I'm Matt with Canby Fire Department. I'm the EMS chief. And we're here tonight to recognize individuals that participated in the resuscitation of a cardiac arrest patient in Canby. The patient is not here tonight, but the patient was successfully resuscitated and discharged from the hospital, which is the key indicator of why we give this award. And we've done this before. Sometimes community members receive this award also. Tonight we have a number of first responders here from dispatch to law enforcement and fire department to receive this recognition. I'm going to talk about cardiac arrest just briefly. When a cardiac arrest occurs, time is of the essence. And they say that within 10 minutes, every minute within that first 10 minutes, a person's chance of survival from a cardiac arrest reduces by 10%. So if you can imagine 5 minutes, it goes by pretty quick. That's a 50% chance if CPR, if chest compressions are not being done. And so, early recognition, immediate chest compressions, we look, listen, and feel for a pulse, start chest compressions. That's a 2-inch depth, full release, 2 compressions per second, right in the center of the chest. As long as that's going on continuously, we can activate the 911 system and get first responders coming that can administer, treat airway, administer medications, and deliver early defibrillation if a AED is not present. So with that, in Clackamas County, us being part of Clackamas County, all law enforcement also responds with fire in a cardiac arrest. This happened on October 5th on the logging road trail in Canby, and 911 was called. Out of 15 people, because these are very heavy personnel care scenarios, a lot of people are involved to care for the patient, move the patient, and transport them to an interventional cardiac facility. On October 5th, 911 was called, Canby Police responded, and started compressions, hooked up an AED. Canby Fire responded immediately after, arrived, assumed care, and transported that patient by Canby Fire ambulance to a local hospital where that patient was further cared for and released from the hospital. So I'd like to ask Operations Chief English to come up and help me present these recognitions. Tonight we'll be handing out a certificate recognizing the efforts of each individual involved, as well as a coin that's only given for these events. And on this coin, it says, chain of survival, protecting the gift of life. So the chain of survival is early recognition, immediate compressions, the activation of the 911 system, which often leads people into chest compressions, which is a vital part of maintaining that 10-minute interval so that they can be defibrillated and transported. So with that, I'm going to start in the order the chain of survival operates with 4 dispatchers here tonight. And as I call your name, would you please come forward? Dispatcher Tammy Aberner. Dispatcher Bethany Condit. Dispatcher Tara Asbo. Supervisor Dispatcher Justin Meyer. Canby Police Sergeant Green. Canby Fire Captain Warner. Canby Fire Lieutenant Anstein. Canby Fire Fighter Keith Nichols. And Canby Firefighter Jack Shannon. And I'm going to mention those that couldn't make it tonight. Chief Davis sends his regards for not being here. He's attending to another important matter. And he is among the names of the persons that responded that day on October 5th. The rest of the personnel that are not here are firefighter Josh Christensen, firefighter Scott Herzog, firefighter Brooke Davis, Fire Captain Andrew Ahmet, firefighter Scott Davis, and Fire Chief Jim Davis. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, you guys, and to those first responders, the dispatch team, and Sergeant Green and the fire district guys, thank you. Having my own situation of having a cardiac event, everything that was said by Chief Dale is absolutely true and very critical. And I know that it does take a great number of people to save a life. And so I thank you all very much for the job that you do every day for our community. The officers that just got sworn in tonight, welcome to our community. You join an incredible team of first responders in our community, and that's what makes Canby one of the safest cities in Oregon, is because of the people that line the walls of this room and are in these seats. So I thank you all very, very much and appreciate the job that you do every single day. So thank you. Those of you that want to hang out for the rest of the meeting, you're more than welcome to. I will pause momentarily for those of you that don't wish to stay. I don't know why.
I know. We are entertaining.
Public hearing. Oh, always.
Yes, for riveting.
Those of you that are still here and sitting more in the back row, please feel free to move forward and fill in the front seats. We don't bite, I promise. Next on our agenda this evening is a shop local presentation, and I believe that that's being handled by Ms. Stickle.
Right. And while that clears out, I have
panels out there.
something to hand out to each one of you. There we go. There is no monetary value associated with it, just for visual purposes. So good evening. I am Jamie Stickle, Economic Development Director, and I'm here before you tonight in place of Tyler Nizer, who is the Economic Development and Tourism Coordinator. He is out of the area attending the Oregon Tourism Leadership Academy, which only a select few are accepted into that academy, and it's his last meeting. So neither of us wanted him to miss, but I believe he'll be back before you in January to speak to this promotion again and talk about how well it worked, because it's the first year that we've done it. So the Shop Local Canby promotion is an effort for the city to work with our small businesses to capitalize on the Small Business Saturday and the Shop Local programming that we have done through, the through the Small Business Saturday promotion, where we become a neighborhood champion is what it's called. And so this was an idea that Tyler came up with that would be a way to encourage people to do that level of holiday shopping, not just on Small Business Saturday, but actually throughout the holiday season. And so this is kind of a brief overview of something that we would put online, but Shop Local Canby, get rewarded November 26th through January 5th. And then it says shop Canby, dine Canby, play Canby. Does this work? Okay, thank you. Ooh. Worked so well, I went to the next page. These are the flyers that have gone out. So we put them out in English and in Spanish, and it gives just a brief overview. And so essentially the way that the program works is when somebody is looking to participate in this program, they would go into a participating business. I will get to the list of participating businesses in just a moment. And you spend $10 or at least $10. You are encouraged, of course, to spend more. But if you went in and spent $10 with a local business, they would punch your card, the card that I handed out to you all. And one of the things that we heard from the businesses is they asked if it would be possible to cap it per day. So if I go into one of the local businesses who's participating and I spend over $10, one punch per day per business. But if I wanted to go to 10 businesses and spend $10 or more at each one of those businesses, I could fill out my punch card in one day. Each of the businesses got this flyer. They received also a box to collect full cards. They received, I think it was 25 cards a piece for each business, and we weren't exactly sure what that would look like. Is that how much it would take throughout the entire month? Hopefully not. I think that we printed well over 1,000, and the hope was that we could get at least 1,000 people out participating in this way. So once the card is filled out with the 10 separate purchases, you deposit that card, and then the city will be pulling a drawing on January 6th, which is the first Thursday night market in January. It goes year round, just in case you don't have that on your calendars, as another opportunity to shop local. And one of the things that I thought was a really great tie-in was that Tyler was able to ask the businesses that were going to participate if they would like to donate a $25 gift card to a drawing, and in that, if they did, then the city would match it. So some businesses were able to donate, and we were able to match that $25 donation, so that when we start pulling the cards for the drawing, we're able to have $50 rewards for each for many of the participating businesses. This is the business decal. So one of the ways that people can find who is open and participating is that this decal would go on the front door, the front window. And, again, we thought it would be, we played with a lot of different verbiage, but essentially people who are out shopping, we're trying to give them a reason to come here instead of going to the mall or to Fred Meyer or, online for all of their sales, unless they're shopping locally, which we want them to do. But, people always think, what's in it for me? So we settled on get rewarded and the time frame that people could participate in that. This is the card that I passed out to each one of you. So again, it's got a very quick, make 10 purchases of $10 or more at Canby's participating businesses. Once completed and filled out, deposit in drawing box at each participating participating business. Punch card must be submitted by 8 p.m. Thursday, January 5th. And then also, obviously, the contact information for the city, so that if anybody had any questions, they could call Tyler directly. And the businesses were provided with an email, providing an overview, all of the materials, and then we also provided a similar email to many of our front office staff, so that if someone came upstairs with a punch card and said, I have this punch card filled out, and they didn't know that they were supposed to drop that in a box, that it wouldn't be that level of customer service that nobody really wants to experience, where someone says, I don't know what you're talking about. So we made sure to give that information, upstairs as well as in the library. This is the map with the participating businesses, and I went in a little bit closer just so that you could see. So 33 participating businesses, and if you just look at the first and the last one, Artomatic and the Wild Hair, and both of those feel like, all right, yeah, absolutely, that makes sense. But I was really excited to see, Canby Smiles is participating, because someone could spend $10 there. And if that's the way that someone learns about this promotion or this program, and then goes and spends $10 in 9 other businesses, that's wonderful. Mattress World also. So it really wasn't just about being a retail business or a restaurant business, but if you need to go and buy a new pillow or mattress, and they happen to, you happen to spend $10 or more, which I think that if you were buying either one of those things, you probably would, you could, start your punch card then. And there's no limit to how many punch cards you could fill in. So if you spent $10 or more at 10 participating businesses in one day, you could do it again the next day. You could come back, as many times as you'd like to, and I know for a fact, without hesitation, that all of our businesses would be happy if you spent $10 or more in their location or in their neighboring locations. We're really lucky that we have a business climate where everybody works together and partners together. So we just wanted to kind of provide a brief overview of that program and answer any questions. And this is the first year that we've done this. As I said, we've been the neighborhood champion for the Small Business Saturday for a couple of years now, and this was a way for, I think Tyler kind of thought, how do we up that game where we're not just saying come for one day? The Small Business Saturday, people really know that terminology, and that's gone very well, I would say, nationwide, but this is a way that makes it Canby and makes it local, and that's really very important, and we're excited to see where it goes, and hopefully bring it back again next year with, I'm sure some refinements, but I'm thrilled.
Jamie, thank you, and please thank Tyler. This is a great, I think, as you said, next step and kind of a big boost to build on that shop local Saturday, which is always a busy weekend for a lot of people anyway. So I think this really drives a lot. We should have had you go first, and so we could have given cards to everybody that was here. But
Wouldn't that have been great?
Yeah. Next year.
I never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity, Mayor.
But I think it's a great idea. And yeah, can I get another card?
Absolutely.
Okay, I might need another one. Council President Hensley, you had something?
Yeah, I love this. I love coupons and cards and passports and all these things that seemingly save money, but you have to spend money to save it. I love it. Anyway, I did have a couple questions. It's probably just me not hearing you right, but I wanted to clarify. I thought I heard you say that the drawing was on January 6th. And you also said first Thursday, which is the 5th.
So it ends the 5th. The drawing is on the 6th. So it's on first Thursday, the 5th.
Is the
drawing
deadline.
is on the 6th. Yeah, because we want people to spend
on first Thursday.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Thursday.
And the information that's in the library and upstairs will also have a box? Because they're already there with the card and the,
I think we would just take it, and then
Okay.
I don't anticipate that many will do that, because even on the back of here it says that you can deposit into the drop box at participating locations or businesses. But so if someone were to drop one off or have a question, they would know either
just get it to Tyler.
Yeah, basically the question and the card for that matter. But yeah. Okay. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, just some clarifying things. Otherwise, love it.
Appreciate it.
That's all.
Councilor Spoon?
Thank you, Jamie, and please extend thanks and hearty pat on the back to Tyler too. This is great. I could definitely see us over time adding in a summer version, or really expanding on the program, because I think people will be excited about this. I think businesses will be excited about it. I love the really diverse scope of businesses that are included, and I could see that for sure growing. So thank you for that. A couple of things. One, there might be a couple missing on the website. So maybe we could update that so that it's the full scope. And as this grows, I mean, in future years, it's going to be almost hard to let people know everywhere that it's available. So
right, I think we got actually just a few more this week.
Yeah,
so that's probably
totally.
why it's not up there. But I will make sure that happens.
yeah, because I'm not sure that there's not really any other place for people to go to see, because the card's small and it has to be. But this is really fantastic, and I also want to acknowledge that I noticed this year during the weekend after Thanksgiving, Small Business Saturday, Black Friday, how many exciting promotions our local businesses have really upped their own game too. And so I just want to applaud that partnership, and I'm sure some of it's driven by the excitement of this and the partnership between the city and businesses. And so I just see a lot of growth and excitement there, and I just want to thank you.
And it's really fun to see what businesses, after the Thanksgiving holiday, I walked into Gwen's Coffee House. And they didn't just have the box next to the register. They had a whole table display, and it was all set out. And it was, I noticed today that it has moved, but it was first thing when you walk in. And, obviously, as someone who has worked in Canby with small businesses for over 10 years now, that feels good that it's there, but also, being somebody who works obviously closely with Tyler, it's very exciting to see, because I've done lots of promotions that don't get front billing, and like that's okay, but it's cool because I think that this is a great promotion. I think that this does a lot of the things that we hope to see in Canby, of we have the reasons to come and shop in Canby. You don't have to look far to find something that fits somebody on your Christmas list or everyone on your Christmas list, but now you could potentially get rewarded. So it just, even more so, like, it's the hook that really keeps people coming back and spending more money. And so I'm just really excited that the businesses and the community are supporting it as much as, as I think it should be supported, because I think it's a really great promotion.
It's awesome. Good job.
Yeah.
Yes, Councilor Marine.
So I got one of these today, and I was glad to get it, but it was a little unclear to me as to what I could win.
Oh, okay.
So I heard you talk about matching gift certificates.
Yeah, so we're going to be we'll be pulling a drawing for, for the completed card. So that's why we ask for name and phone number, email. Right. And then the reason we ask for zip code is also to let us track who is spending their money in Canby without being, too much in people's business. We also do this, for example, with our first Thursday night market scavenger hunts. It asks for their contact information, so if they win a drawing, we're able to contact them, but also the zip code, just so we can think who is actually participating. And it's fun to see because you never quite know. But we will be there will be a drawing, and those winners will win gift cards to the local businesses who participated within.
So the number of winners is determined by how many merchants participate in the whole event?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. And just because, let's say you went to, 10 businesses, that doesn't mean that you won't win a gift certificate potentially from a business that's not one of those 10. So I think that it can be any business. So you could not shop at the mattress store, but now you'll win the drawing and have a reason to go buy a new mattress.
So when you award the winners, are you giving them the choice of all that are available at that time? Or are you just randomly giving them one of the gift certificates?
Wow, this is a very good question.
It's an inquisition.
And I can't wait to ask Mr. Tyler Nizer what he has in mind, and I'd be happy to circle back. And just, I'm not certain how. I don't have that answer. Good question, though.
Councilor Parker, do you have something?
Well, just the granular nature of putting something together like this is a lot of work going into these businesses, finding the time when the owner or the manager is going to have time to talk to you is a lot of work. What I was particularly pleased with is reflecting back on our time when we were running the Main Street program and trying to get people involved. There's names on this list that have said no to promotions in the past. So it's not just that Tyler did this, but he was compelling and got some people that I personally have wanted to see participate in downtown activities that said no to us before. So,
well, I will say that I am continuously impressed with his compelling nature, because there are businesses that we've tried for years, in earnest to participate, not just in promotions like this, but things like First Thursday and everything and anything. And he has made headway with businesses that aren't featured on this list in this promotion, but are featured in other things that maybe haven't participated in the past. And, I think that takes a very unique personality and perspective, and he has been with the city for 9 months now, and I'm thrilled to see what the next 9 months and hopefully 9 years bring, because he's done a lot of compelling people to participate in just that short amount of time.
That's great. Jamie, thank you. This is a great project, and looking forward to seeing how it turns out.
hopefully great, and hopefully there's lots of participants and lots of winners, and they all know exactly where their winnings are gonna come from.
Did you bring enough cards for everybody that's here?
If I didn't bring enough cards, I would be happy to run up and grab some more for everybody that's in here. And because there's no cost and we're just trying to get them out and remind people, I will do that, and make sure everybody gets one.
Well, looking at the crowd that's here and the agendas that still to go, everyone will be here for a little while, so, yes.
You all are so lucky.
And I'll talk slower.
Please don't.
I got you covered.
There's a joke there.
There's plenty of time for her to go upstairs.
There's a joke there?
Like slower, but not shorter.
Gotcha. Yeah. I will continue
Thank you
to,
all.
I'll continue to bloviate. Thanks, Jamie. Great job. Next on the agenda this evening is the election proclamation. So it's the proclamation regarding the mayor and city council election. So whereas the city of Canby, County of Clackamas, Oregon, held a general election on November 8th, 2022, and whereas the Clackamas County Elections Department offers the following abstract as an official count of votes as of December 5th, 2022. For mayor, myself, Brian Hodson, 5,242 votes. Undervotes, 3,312. Overvotes, 0. Write-in, 327. City councilor, Brad Clark, received 1,097 votes. James Davis received 4,581 votes. Craig Llewellyn, 2,106 votes. Herman Maldonado, 2,907 votes. Art Marine, 2,528 votes. Greg Parker, 2,819 votes. Sean Varwig, 3,274 votes. Undervotes were 7,199. Overvotes were 8. Write-ins were 0. Whereas the 3 candidates who received the highest number of votes will have 4-year terms on the city council. So that was James Davis, Herman Maldonado, and Sean Varwig. Now therefore, I, Brian Hodson, Mayor of the City of Canby, Oregon, do hereby proclaim the foregoing to be a true and accurate accounting as presented by the Clackamas County Elections Division dated December 5th, 2022, dated the 7th day of December 2022. And I know that Councilor-elect Herman Maldonado is here, so congratulations, sir. So thank you all of Canby for those of you that voted. We really do appreciate it, and I thank Councilor Parker and Councilor Marine for your service here, and we'll have more to come on that, I think, the year switch over, but thank you both very much. Next on the agenda this evening is the citizen input and community announcements. This is an opportunity for audience members to address the city council on items not on the agenda. If you are attending in person, please complete a yellow testimony card, which they're back there on the podium, and bring that over to Melissa, and she'll make sure that I get it. Each person will be given 3 minutes to speak. Staff and the city council will make every effort to respond to questions raised during citizen input before the meeting ends or as quickly as possible thereafter. If you'd like to speak virtually, please email or call the deputy city recorder by 4:30 p.m. on the date of our city council meetings and the topic you would wish to speak about. And we will make sure that you receive the information to be able to zoom in. I don't think we have anybody on Zoom this evening, and I haven't received any yellow cards, so we will move past that. Next on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda that includes the minutes of the March 9th, 2022 special goals setting session, city council meeting minutes.
Second.
A lot.
Motion's been made by Council President Hensley and seconded by Councilor Spoon to approve the consent agenda, which include the approval of the March 9th, 2022 special called goal setting minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That carries 5-0. Our next item this evening is a public hearing for all sorts of fun stuff. Public hearing regarding a noise variance request from Northwest Natural located on South Elm Street and 99E. The variance is for December 8th through the 31st of 2022 from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. Mr. Archer.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, you just summarized the request. I would like to note that we have representatives, I think someone from Northwest Natural Gas, which is the applicant, is on Zoom. And then I believe we have the contractors at Lloyd Clark.
Yes, sir.
We have a representative from Lloyd Clark here, which is their contractor on this project. So if you would like to invite their feedback on that to explain their request, or if you have any questions, they're available.
I will do that. First, let me just read our little piece here to satiate our city attorney. The matter presently before the hearing body requires a public hearing. All interested persons in attendance shall be heard on the matter. Opportunity was given to sign up or provide testimony, and no one has signed up to speak on this topic or submitted comments or testimony. A decision shall be made by the hearing body at the close of the hearing, or the matter will be continued to a date certain in the future. This will be the only notice of that date you will receive. Any questions on the proceeding of the hearing? No? Okay. You want to go to Jay, or would you like to sort of come up and tell us about the project and the request?
Sure. I appreciate your time. So I'm Kyle Sutton. I represent Lloyd Clark Construction. We're doing the work for Northwest Natural Gas out on the highway. The request for the noise variance ordinance is for a section of the job that we might have to do at night to cross Highway 99 at Elm Street. If we're not able to successfully do a directional bore across the highway, it's going to require us to actually trench that section of the highway across Highway 99, which due to traffic and things of that nature isn't really feasible to try and do during the daytime. So that would require us to have to do a portion of that work in the evening. So it would be just us doing some trenching, just like we've been doing for the last several weeks along the Highway 99. So we just have to coordinate traffic and go that route just so that we could do that in the evening time.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kyle. Appreciate that. Mr. Davis, are you there, sir?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can. Thank you very much. Anything that you wanted to add to Mr. Sutton's piece?
No, not really. I'd just like to thank you guys for taking the time to listen to us this evening. I do know that we've had some issues out there on that project. I've been working very closely with Jerry Nelzine with the city of Canby, very closely, and I think we've got all the issues taken care of. Well, I know we do have all the issues taken care of. The last couple of weeks has been really smooth, and a lot of that credit goes to Kyle Sutton, who works for Lloyd Clark, but also he forgot to mention that he's actually the safety director for Lloyd Clark. So the dedication that Lloyd Clark is putting out there to make sure that they're running a safe project is top notch. Since a couple of weeks ago, we have changed the way that our contractors are doing business for Northwest Natural, in that we are including let me back up a little bit. When this thing first started, there was some communication breakdown, and I'll be the first to admit that. We came together out at the city of Canby, had everybody there. Participants from the fire department were there. Several organizations, ODOT was there. Came together, and we all put our heads together, and we got a good game plan. We got a communication plan laid out, and ever since then, it's worked seamlessly. Lloyd Clark has taken the additional steps to every day. They send out what we call a scattergram, and it goes out to every municipality, jurisdiction that's impacted by this job, and it gives them a forecast on what that day was completed and what's going to happen the following day, so that they are very well aware of what the impacts could be on the following day. Since we've done that, we have had zero issues. In my memory, Kyle, you might have something that's popped up, but it's been very, very quiet. Like Kyle said, we're asking for this noise ordinance with the hope that we don't need it. We are going to try and drill this shot across 99. We are just having this, we are just getting this noise ordinance as a plan B. If everything, if we can't get that drill to go across, we will have to dig across 99. But fingers crossed, we can drill it and we won't even need the noise ordinance permit.
That's 100% accurate.
Well, great. Thank you, Mr. Davis, for that. Appreciate. Let's hope that Plan A works.
Yeah. And just to piggyback on what Jay was saying, we actually do have that drill scheduled for this Friday. So during the daytime, we've worked with the city and the fire department and working on a couple lane closures on Elm Street right now. We have that scheduled for Friday to try and attempt that first shot, that drill shot across the highway, to hopefully alleviate having to trench across that. So
great. Councilor Parker, do you have a question?
Yeah. Kyle, where's the trench going to go from what basic business to the other side?
I mean, in regards to when we have to cross Highway 99 at Elm Street, so it would go, I guess that'd be the west side of Elm Street, going south directly across the highway.
Okay.
So if you've driven by there, we have what we call our laydown yard, which is where we have all of our equipment staged right there on the corner. So in essence, it would go from that ADA ramp or out in the middle of that intersection directly south across the highway.
Right.
It's about a 100-foot bore shot, basically.
Well, I know that we ran into some surprises on the city-owned part of Ivy when we were doing some trenching. In fact, Jay, I think Northwest was somebody punctured one of your pipes during that because the as-built plans weren't precise on what's exactly underneath that. So hopefully down by Elm, you've got a better idea of what's underground.
Yeah, and I can speak to that. So myself and Jay, sorry Jay, I stepped on you there, but and Mr. Callahan, who our inspector from Northwest Natural is, have actually gone back through that after that incident with Northwest Natural's platting and engineering department to make sure that any unplatted tees or anything of that nature, abandoned services, any of that was identified in scope so that we were able to pothole that and find those to alleviate any of those future mishaps moving forward.
Well, Mayor, I do want to point out that since Kyle came aboard, I've heard nothing but good words from our Public Works Department in terms of the communication and coordination with the various entities. So we appreciate it when things go well.
Yeah.
Appreciate it a lot, considering, Councilor, did you have something?
And like I was saying, sorry about that. Like I said earlier, we know that this project got off to a bumpy start, and I just want everybody to know Northwest Natural doesn't take that lightly. When the first problems came up, I immediately stopped work and shut everything down, got everybody refocused, and we really turned it around. And, I think the city of Canby and Jerry Nelzine did an outstanding job. Spencer, you have to forgive me for I forgot his last name. Those two individuals have been key in keeping this thing going and really working with us to develop that communication plan. So my hat's off to those guys. Kudos to those two individuals.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I know that Mr. Archer and I had a conversation about it, so I appreciate the quick adjustment. So that we didn't have any further concerns and issues. We'll leave it at that. So we do appreciate the quick adjustment on that. Great. Any other questions for Jay or for Kyle?
No, I have a question, but I'll wait till the public hearing's closed.
Okay. You can ask a question now.
I'm sure there isn't, but we always ask during a noise variance. There were no objections to the variance being issued at all. Okay, great.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much for presenting and appreciate that. I will, since there's no other comments or whatnot, I'll close the hearing. Is there a motion to? Yeah, Councilor Spoon.
I move to grant a noise variance to Northwest Natural to allow for construction located at South Elm Street and 99E for December 8th through the 31st, 2022 from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m.
Second.
Motion been made by Councilor Spoon and seconded by Councilor Hensley to approve the noise variance to Northwest Natural to allow for construction located at South Elm Street and 99E for December 8th through the 31st, 2022 from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That carries 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Absolutely. I always appreciate when people come.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks, Jay, appreciate it. Have a good evening, Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is second public hearing this evening regarding an annexation and zone change application located at 1885 North Redwood Street. And so the matter before the city council is a request to annex property into the city of Canby. Canby Municipal Code Section 16.84.050 requires the council to conduct a public hearing to evaluate the proposed annexation application and determine the appropriate zoning designation upon annexation. This matter requires a public hearing, and all interested persons in attendance shall be heard on the matter. We noticed this public hearing on November 30th, 2022, and provided instructions to provide comments or sign up to speak virtually. Those people interested in testifying, please indicate that desire by raising your hand at this time. Is there anyone that wishes to speak on this matter? Gotcha. Thank you, sir. You may be limited by time for your presentation. The applicant will have a total of, we'll say 15 minutes to speak. The proponents will be allowed 5 minutes, and then the opponents will be allowed 3 minutes each. The applicant will then have 5 minutes for rebuttal if need be. Testimony and evidence must be directed to the applicable criteria listed in the staff report or other criteria in the comprehensive plan or land use regulations which you believe applies to the decision. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the decision maker and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue may preclude appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. All questions will be directed through the mayor. Any evidence to be considered must be submitted to the hearing body for public access. Conflicts of interest. At this time, I would ask that any member of the hearing body who has a conflict of interest to please indicate the nature and extent of the conflict and whether you intend to participate in or abstain from the hearing, from hearing the present matter. Councilor Spoon?
I have no conflict of interest and I'll participate.
Great. Councilor Parker?
No conflict, will participate.
Council President Hensley?
No conflict, will participate.
Thank you. Councilor Banks?
I don't know if I have a conflict. I will participate, but I will also disclose that the applicant is my boss's boss's boss.
Okay.
That would be the next part.
Thank you. And then Councilor Marine?
No conflict, and I will participate.
Okay. I also have no conflict and will participate. Ex parte contact. Also, if any member of the hearing body has had any ex parte contact with anyone prior to this hearing, including a visit to the site, please declare the nature and extent of such contact at this time. Councilor Spoon?
I frequently drive by the site.
Okay. Councilor Parker?
Same.
Council President Hensley?
Drive by frequently, have drawn no conclusions.
Okay. Councilor Banks?
Yeah. Yes, the same. I've been by the site.
Okay. And then Councilor Marine?
Yeah, I drive by it periodically and don't really have an opinion on it at this point.
Okay. And I have had no ex parte contact at all. So I will also continue in this. So does any member of the audience have any questions for any council or the mayor regarding ex parte contact or conflicts of interest? Okay, seeing none, the public hearing will be conducted as follows. We'll get a staff report and then questions by the staff by the hearing body. I will then open the public hearing for testimony. We will hear from the applicant, like I said, 15 minutes if he needs it. Then proponents, opponents, and then time for rebuttal. I will then close the public testimony with any other questions by the hearing body if it's necessary, and then discussion. A decision shall be made by the council at the close of the hearing, or the matter will be continued to a date certain in the future for further action by this body. This will be the only notice of that date you will receive. The city council's decision regarding the annexation application is final and will be reflected with a first and second reading of the associated annexation ordinance. Does anyone have any questions about the procedure of the hearing at this point? Okay. Then we will open it up with the staff report. Good evening.
Wonderful. Good evening, Mayor, City Councilors. It's always wonderful to see you. My name is Brianna Adada. I'm an associate planner with the City of Canby. I'm the staff planner for this project. We also do have the applicant team here with us tonight. So jumping right in. Oh, did I do that? There we go. Could you move that bar for me, please? So I know where I am. Thank you very much. So the approval criteria is primarily found in our land development and planning ordinance. We call it the development code for annexations and zone changes. Zone change is kind of a, it's the application title, but in reality, this is application of a city zoning district. And it always happens in conjunction with an annexation into the city, of course. So here we have the applicable criteria sections, our general provisions. The R2 residential zone is the zoning district the applicant has requested. Amendments to zoning map, that's procedure. Annexations, local requirements, as well as ORS, Oregon Revised Statute annexations. So we also definitely comply with those. And then our application and review procedures. So annexation and zone change are type 4. So what I'm actually presenting to you is a recommendation from the Planning Commission to you to make the final decision. And last but not least, I do want to mention that all of these policies do stem from policies in our Canby Comprehensive Plan. Most specifically in this situation, it's element 3, which is our land use element. Would you mind just, thank you. There's no fancy presentation here, so we can just go through. Okay, here's the subject property. It is just south of Territorial. It accesses off of Redwood Street, which is actually the street you see to the east. To the west there is the Logging County Trail. So just to help orient there is an easement. You can kind of see it to access Redwood to the east there. So we're just looking at this one parcel. It is just over 1 acre, and right now it is zoned Clackamas County rural residential farm. I'm forgetting what the second F is. Forest, thank you. Farm Forest 5. That is a rural county zone, and typically you see farm or forest land up to 5 acres, which you can see this is kind of a remnant parcel that's still holding on to that zone. And it is one of 3 county parcels surrounded by annexed land. Please advance, there we go. So you can see on the left here, first is our comprehensive plan land use designation map. It's a mouthful, but what that is it assigns land use designations for every parcel within the UGB, urban growth boundary. So not only parcels that are already annexed into the cities, but parcels like this where it's not in the city yet, but it is within our UGB, and we did expect it to eventually come in, so we gave it the HDR, high density residential land use designation in the comp plan. And then you can see on the right hand side the zoning district. It hasn't been applied yet because it's not annexed, but surrounding it you can see it is also surrounded by R2 high density residential. Thank you. I wanted to go into the history of this area just a little bit because I'm sure you've noticed that just below the subject property is a row of single-family properties, single-family home properties that are also zoned R2, which is a little bit unique. So I wanted to first point out 1984 was our first comprehensive plan that was adopted, and you can see it's maybe not as detailed and high tech as we can produce today, but you do see the high density designation is applied sort of in a step configuration just south of Territorial. And that is carried through on the right-hand side is the 2019 map. And so you can see that congruency there, that we are carrying that high-density residential land use designation fairly, I would say. One more. So how did that one row of single-family homes be zoned R2? Well, actually, I will flip that and say this property actually was a split zone. So it had both high-density and low-density residential applied to a single parcel. So before this is subdivided, you can kind of picture the rectangular parcel, and it was split zoned. And that was due to a lot line adjustment that happened before subdivision. So again, I just want to point out that all of this is intentional. It wasn't, an oversight by any of the decision makers at that time. But in 1998, Connors Corner subdivision, the subdivision you see here, recognized that. And one more, please. They specifically did determine that the zoning should remain as is, but the development would be allowed to continue in a single family home configuration. Why they didn't change the zoning, there were several things that possibly could have been done. In 1998, they weren't done. This is what was done. And so the single family home development was allowed to continue to develop single family homes still under the R2 zoning district. So that's kind of how we ended up with that one row of R2 there. Okay, the second thing I wanted to dive into just a little bit, and this is specifically because the applicant has provided a full transportation impact analysis. I wanted to point out that that is actually one level above what is required strictly for annexation and zone change. The transportation planning rule is an Oregon administrative rule, and it applies these three specific criteria or regulations to annexations and zone changes, excuse me, within a UGB. So the first one is the proposed zoning is consistent with the comp plan, which you've already seen. The local government has an acknowledged transportation system plan, or TSP, and the proposed zoning is consistent with that plan as well, and that is the case. And the third one is that it doesn't apply here, but it's that it's a specifically exempted area designated during the UGB process. So UGB process is a several, very long, intensive process. This area was not exempted, so the TPR does apply. And we did have DKS, well, the applicant had DKS through the city because DKS is a contractor with us. DKS has verified that the TPR has been met for this application. Next. So as I did state, the applicant did provide a full transportation impact analysis. I want to explain what this is. It's an in-depth analysis of impacts on transportation system associated with a specific development proposal. Often the applicant will elect to have the highest impact scenario studied to understand thresholds for impact early in the development process. TIAs are also conducted by DKS Engineering in contract with the city, but paid for by the applicant. And they are reviewed by staff and also Planning Commission during actual development review, which has not happened yet. So the reason that the applicant did decide to do the full TIA was because they do have this conceptual site plan. I want to state first and foremost, this is not binding in any way. This is sort of the most dense scenario possible in the R2 zone based on the size of both the annex property that we're talking about today and a property that they also own to the north. So if they were to go ahead with this site plan, they would have to consolidate, which is not too difficult to do when they're both owned by the same entity. But again, this is conceptual. It's sort of the densest possible situation, and this is what was used to create the TIA. And again, I just want to reiterate, any future development proposal will be subject to further review, both by staff and by Planning Commission, subject to the development code that is in place at the time. So for comments received, we received agency comments from Public Works and our city engineer. For annexations and zone changes, we're kind of looking at that higher level, will services be available? During the actual review of a development proposal, we do expect more in-depth comments from all of the agencies and other utility providers. So that's why you see that list is just a little bit short, but they will have definitely more opportunities to participate in the process. We also had public comments written and at the hearing, and they were both neighbors. And those comments primarily stemmed from the confusion or, the questioning about the history of the zone. So they have a single family home. Perhaps they didn't know they were next to R2. Perhaps they, so there was just some clarification that happened there with kind of how land use and zoning throughout the history of our city has unfolded. Next. And so Planning Commission did ultimately decide to recommend approval to the City Council on application ANN/ZC 22-01, subject to the identified conditions of approval in the staff report, as well as the City Council memo. And next. And so now here are your options. Of course, I'm happy to answer any questions. We also, again, do have the applicant team here. So these are your two options, to approve or to deny, and I have the language there for you as well. But that is the end of my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. It's been a while since we've gone through an annexation and zone change, and so had to do some refreshing of my own on this. Can you explain the addendums on the, if we choose to approve? Because in our notes here, there is am I not reading the motion?
Conditions?
Yes, the conditions. Thank you.
So the conditions, I believe there are only two conditions, and that they, I have them right here. Let's see. They are pretty standard to annexations and zone changes. So, okay, it's so that the decision must be free of appeals and have attained final land use decision. So you'll have a second reading. If you do approve and do the first reading tonight, there needs to be a second reading. And so basically the decision has to be final before the applicants move ahead with any sort of application for development. So that's the first one. And the second one is annexation approval shall conform to all other City of Canby ordinances, municipal code, state law, and administrative rule. So
I guess my question is, I mean, don't all of the annexations and zone changes need to meet these two pieces?
Yes.
So is this just a new added piece? I guess because that's what threw me, is I've not seen these two specifically called out in the past.
Understood.
So I just wanted to make sure that these were not something
These are
that we would run in risk of.
Yeah.
That the developer would somehow violate these two in the process.
No, I think in the past, these were kind of accepted as implied, and we just wanted to make it explicit, put it in writing. So, 10, 20 years down the line, if anyone's pulling up records, it's right here in black and white. But
dotting I's and crossing T's.
Yes.
Perfect.
Exactly.
I get it. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Councilor Parker.
On page 13. On page 13, I'm taking a look at the question about access.
Yes.
And I'm a little bit confused by the way that's phrased. There's no access, the property is on Redwood, but no access to Redwood?
So right now, the property does have access to Redwood through it's about 10 or 12 feet easement through the other two parcels to the east to access Redwood. Should the property be more intensely developed, and because the applicants own the parcel to the north, the plan for future access would be off of Territorial to the north. So if that were the case, the access to Redwood would be closed down.
Okay. And At this point of the process, we're not taking it until there's a development plan submitted to us. It's not within our purview to take a look at the a number of car trips a day and that sort of thing. That's
Well, they did submit a full TIA,
Yes.
so we can definitely look at it and talk about it. We just want to be clear that the decision for annexation and zone change can't be based on the full TIA. It has to be based on the TPR, the Transportation Planning Rule.
Good. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff at all right now? Okay. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I will open up the public hearing for testimony, and we'll hear from the applicant. Mr. Scott, good evening.
Good evening. I've never been called a boss's boss's boss.
One of the boss's bosses. Regretted that. Had a better rate to.
Well, good evening, Mayor Hudson and councilors. Thanks for having me here tonight. Tom Scott. I live at 1893 South First Street in Canby. Thanks, Brianna, for the presentation and overview. My comments are going to be fairly brief. I think our application is thorough and shows that we meet every criteria set forth by the city for the annexation and zone change process. As Brianna explained, we're requesting to annex a little over 1 acre with an address off of North Redwood Street. It borders the walking trail, Law Force walking trail. They're right close to where it crosses Territorial Road. And we're also asking for a zone change to R2, which conforms with the comprehensive plan that the city adopted in 2019. So first, I think it's important to address zoning. We, again, are conforming to the comprehensive plan zoning. Properties to the north, to the south, to the west are currently in the city of Canby and do have the R2 zone. The property to the east is in the county, as is this property, but its comprehensive zone plan is R2. So eventually, you would think when it comes into the city, it would be zoned R2. Urbanization of this area. You guys are probably very well aware that this whole area over the last 20 or so years has developed, sometimes slowly and sometimes recently very quickly, a lot of action in this area. This 1 acre parcel, along with 2 other parcels to the east that are approximately 1 acre, and then a property we own that's 2 acres right on Territorial, are really the only parcels in this area that are undeveloped. And so the urbanization of this area has been coming for some time, and it really lends for these properties to do the same. In fact, it's kind of odd to have an island like this surrounded by developed property in the city of Canby. Public utilities, we've met with all public utility providers, and they assure us that they are all available or can become available through development. Schools, police, fire, of course, are available for the site. The traffic impact analysis, I think that's important. Again, Brianna mentioned that we did a full TIA to assure ourselves that if we were going to move forward in this direction, that we could potentially, in the near future, potentially develop the site. And I think it's important that to note that it's not our traffic engineer that we hired. It's the city's traffic engineer that follows the city's process and requirements and transportation plan. We don't create the criteria. They actually do, and they study the intersections that they believe are appropriate for the site. And if you've read it, or I'm sure you've read one of these, they're very thorough. They're long. And there's a lot of information in there. And I think for the most part, ours shows that you could, as we've shown in a conceptual, put 60 units of multifamily on this site in conjunction with another site, and really the traffic system supports that type of development at this point. And that includes, if you read their analysis, it includes all the development that's currently happening on territorial or has been discussed before we ordered our TIA, which I believe was last March-ish, February, March. So it is very thorough. It has taken into account all that's going on in this area, at least in the last 12 months or so. Housing needs. So you all commissioned the FCS group to perform a housing study. And you are, I'm telling you something that you already know. There's a need for all kinds of different types of housing in the city of Canby. Multifamily is in high density housing is one of them. Currently in Canby, the last time I checked, which was end of October, our vacancy rate was about 3%, which is about as low as you could possibly get it. That means it's really hard to find a place to live if you're a renter. The FCS Group's report said that over the next 20 years, that Canby will need just under 400 multifamily units to meet the needs of the citizens. And some of you can probably remember that we went almost 20 years without any significant multifamily development. And that's surprising to go that long, but we've had a couple significant ones since then in the last 4 or 5 years, which has added to our inventory, which has been great. But you can go some period. It's multifamily is a little bit harder. There's not a lot of land available, so it's a little bit harder to put that together. So anyways, I believe that shows that we have a need for more multifamily development. Again, larger parcels, 2 or 3 or 4 acres are harder to put together with this type of zoning, and we have an opportunity to do that with the conjunction of another site we own. So in conclusion, based off the City of Canby's requirements, I believe that we've shown that this site in our application meets all the requirements for the City of Canby annexation and zoning. Happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate it, Tom. Questions? Questions over here? No? Okay. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it. Earlier asked if there were any proponents or opponents and didn't have any. So no need for the applicant to provide any rebuttal, so I will close the public testimony. Are there any additional questions of the hearing body at all, of staff or anything? No? Okay. Any discussion needed at this point? No. On page 23 of our packet is a proposed motion, if someone is so inclined.
Oh, wait, 23 of our packet is under this. Oh, there it is. I move to approve ordinance number 1592, an ordinance proclaiming annexation into the city of Canby, Oregon, 1.06 acres of real property described as land situated at southwest 1/4 of section 27 T3S R1E WM tax map 31E27CB, and amending the existing county zoning from rural residential farm forest 5 acres RRFF5 to city high density residential R2 for the entire area, and setting boundaries of the property to be included within the Canby city limits, to a second reading on December 21st, 2022.
Thank you. So the motion's been made by Councilor Spoon and seconded by Councilor Marine to approve ordinance number 1592, an ordinance proclaiming annexation into the city of Canby, Oregon, 1.06 acres of real property described as land situated southwest quarter of section 27 T3S R1E WM tax map 31E27CB, and amending the existing county zoning from rural residential farm forest 5 acres, so the RRFF5, to city high-density residential R2 for the entire area, and setting the boundaries of the property to be included within the Canby city limits to a second reading on December 21st of 2022. Any further discussion? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That annexation and zone change passes 5-0. Thank you everyone for it, appreciate it. Great presentation, staff, appreciate the work. Next on the agenda are a couple of ordinances and resolutions. The first one is consider ordinance number 1592, which we just did. So, look at that, knocking them out. Next up is ordinance number 1589, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter a contract with Axon Enterprises in the amount of $207,632.40 for the purchase of car video cameras, equipment, software, and services. And this is our second reading. So again, this is the second reading for us to buy some new camera equipment for our police vehicles. And Chief Tro is here to nicely ask.
Oh, Mr. Mayor, I'll kick it off and then turn it over to Chief Tro, and then actually Joe is going to help a bit with some legal stuff here. We do have some new information since the first reading, so that's why we've got Chief here ready to explain that. It has to do with the pricing of the contract, and if we take some action to get this fully enacted before the first of the year, there's a pretty substantial savings involved. So we're actually going to request an emergency ordinance from you if you'd be open to consider that, but for the purpose of saving a pretty good amount of money. So Chief Tro, if you can help explain that, and then I think Joe might have some additions with this in terms of kind of the legal components of that.
Yeah, hello again. So this, the ordinance to purchase is, we're purchasing the same amount of cameras and for the vehicles. So this is just a request that the ordinance amended to declare this an emergency. So I found out recently from Axon that after January 1st, the cost of the same amount of equipment that we're requesting goes up about $30,000. And I actually even talked to the supervisor about, hey, this is due to our ordinance. The actual contract won't be signed until after the new year. And he said there was no way around this, that if it wasn't signed before January 1st, it was going to go up approximately $30,000. So my request is that we amend this to declare it an emergency. And I think Joe has the information on how to do that.
So he talks to the supervisor, and the supervisor says there's no way around this. And Joe Lindsay says, yes, there is a way around this. The way around this is we amend it to have an emergency clause, but if you amend it, you want to have a first reading again. So this will become the first reading, and you guys can just say, as amended with an emergency clause, we'll make sure and package that up so it actually has the emergency clause for the second reading. The second reading can take place at your normal meeting on December 21st, and then there won't be a 30-day waiting period, so that on the 21st, Scott Archer can sign it, and that is before January.
Thank you. That was
Otherwise,
my only question, actually.
Otherwise, if this was the second reading, 30-day period would go by. It would be January 6th, and it would cost us more money.
But the first and second was going to be my question, and you answered that.
So,
you can make a motion.
Just, I always hate being held hostage on these kinds of situations. It absolutely infuriates me that we've been in conversations with this company for how long?
Oh, well, it's probably about 6 months now.
Okay.
Yes.
And they know that we were planning on doing this and approving this?
Correct.
Okay. Is it, in terms of like rankings of these types of companies, where does Axon fall? Top 5 company in these?
Body worn cameras and in-car cameras, they are the best. And they are growing very fast, and they know they have a very good product.
And Mr. Mayor, before we say anything too good or too bad about a business on the record, we might also consider that we already have a contract with them for the body-worn cameras, and this is going to work in conjunction with them in a way that actually is helpful for the evidence to get to the DA.
I get it. I do. And I'm not trying to be so Pollyanna-ish here to be all coy and be like, yay, goody. 30 grand is a lot.
And they did know this price increase was coming when we talked about this 2 weeks ago. Come on.
They did. Yes, they did, January
So
1st.
we could-
I think the confusion was they didn't know about the 30-day waiting period.
Gotcha.
And that it would be after. All the other contracts are before that date, so they're fine. It's just this last one.
So then notice my drippy sarcasm when I'm really excited that we're gonna get this done in this fashion before the deadline, though I'm not real excited.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
I move we approve ordinance number 1589, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a contract with Axon Enterprises in the amount of $207,632.40 for the purchase of in-car video cameras, equipment, software, and services with the amendment of an emergency clause declaring an emergency. Second reading, December 21st, 2022.
Second.
Yeah, I know. You're welcome, Trev.
So say, did you want to give your usual diatribe about?
No, he gave the
All right,
explanation.
okay, I just wanted to double check.
I missed out on my last chance to give you my emergency plan.
Motion's been made by Council President Hensley and seconded by Councilor Spoon to approve ordinance number 1589, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter a contract with Axon Enterprises in the amount of $207,632.40 for the purchase of in-car video cameras, equipment, software, and services to come up for a second reading on December 21st, 2022. Any other comment or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That carries 5-0. Making the streets of Canby safer.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for your support of that. We know that you don't like to do those emergency enactments if you don't need to, but that one was worth, I think, consideration. So thank you.
Well, thank goodness we have the reserves that we have, because everything seems to be jumping up in costs dramatically here as we start to approve things and then actually get to exercise the installation or implementation of projects. So, okay.
That's about a $6,000 savings per eye.
There we go. Moving on, ordinance number 1590, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to contract with 3J Consulting for fiscal year 2022-23 work on the Canby Comprehensive Plan and Transportation Plan in the amount of $157,121. Second reading. Scott.
This one, we have no new or additional information.
The cost is not changing on us on this one?
Not that I've heard, no. I do want to acknowledge Planning Director Hardy is here if you had any additional questions, but he gave you a thorough report at the last meeting, so we recommend second reading.
Councilor Spoon.
I move to adopt ordinance 1590, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to contract with 3J Consulting for fiscal year 2022-2023, work on the Canby Comprehensive Plan and Transportation Plan in the amount of $157,121.
I'm sorry, was that Councilor Banks? Thank you, sir. Motion's been made by Councilor Spoon and seconded by Councilor Bangs to approve ordinance number 1590, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to contract with 3J Consulting for fiscal year 2022-23 to begin work on the Canby Comprehensive Plan and Transportation Plan in the amount of $157,121. Roll call vote.
Councilor Bangs.
Aye.
Council President Hensley.
Aye.
Councilor Marine.
Aye.
Councilor Parker.
Aye.
Councilor Spoon.
Aye.
That motion passes 5-0. I will say, since I know this came up at the last meeting, I was not there, the housing piece that our last public hearing was about, a lot of the pre-work that we've been doing on that, this has been very overdue for us to begin work on our comp plan. I'm excited that we are starting off and we're starting to work on that, and the TSP will be a huge component of that plan in terms of addressing transportation as we grow over the next 10 to 15 years. So thank you to Scott and staff for getting this moving. It's taken a little while to get there, but we're here and it's going to be a lot of work. So public input will definitely be necessary and needed when we take a look at our comp plan and how we're going to grow in the next 20 years. So thank you, I appreciate it. Next, item D, ordinance number 1590, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract with Lee Contractors LLC in the amount of $773,000 for the 2022 wastewater treatment facility improvements project. And that's for first reading. Mr. Archer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So council, we are requesting your approval of first reading for the low bidder on this project at our wastewater treatment plant. I want to acknowledge that we've got Jerry Nelzine, our Public Works Director, which wastewater treatment plant is part of the Public Works operations, and then one of our excellent staff persons who helps to operate that facility, John Patrick, is here to help answer any questions that may come up. Since we don't get to talk wastewater treatment plant very often, just a quick plug for the really excellent work that our team does out there. The wastewater treatment plant, the sewer, is one of those kind of out of sight, out of mind things that a lot of people take for granted, and it's easy to not think about it. And sometimes, maybe you don't want to think about it, but it is really one of the most critical, important things that we do as a city operation. It contributes greatly to the health and the wellness of our community, and we have a very good and well-functioning wastewater treatment facility. When you do your dishes or your laundry or you flush your toilets, that waste just goes away somewhere, and where it goes is into this facility down in our public works yard. It's kind of behind the gates, and you don't really see it, but there is a lot of really high-level biology and chemistry and technical work that goes into treating that waste and that water and putting it back safely into our discharge system out into the river. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to acknowledge the excellent work that really goes kind of unnoticed quite frequently. So this is a project that is much needed. It's budgeted for. It's in our capital plan. There are 4 components to this. Quickly, I'll just tell you what those are. One is utilizing the existing infrastructure and converting a 325,000 gallon basin into a precate storage basin. I think I may be saying that right, or precate?
Precate.
Thanks. Precate. And this is the water that's removed from the sludge that is high in ammonia and needs to be treated before returning back through the plant. That part of the project will slope flat floors, build a sump, adds a solid removal pump, and some miscellaneous piping alterations. This improvement will allow for better controlled aeration, pumping and removal of settled solids. So that's part 1. Parts 2 and 3 are related to the power distribution of the facility. So we'll be adding a pitched roof over the existing flat roof of the power distribution building that has been basically patchworked together many times over years. And then the second part of the power distribution improvement is modifying the emergency power distribution to support the process for water pumps and lime feed system, which are the only 2 remaining items in the plant that are not on standby power. So it gets us on better power distribution. And then the last component is to build an equipment storage building. It'll be a 36 by 56 storage building. It'll house all of the equipment in one enclosed area. Currently, we have our wastewater treatment plant equipment kind of scattered about in different places, multiple storage areas, some indoors, some out in the weather. This makes it much more efficient in emergency situations, inventorying and just keeping our equipment in one place, and will definitely add to the longevity of equipment and hoses by not being out in the elements. So this is a much needed and planned for project that will just contribute to the continued good operation of our treatment plant. And again, John Patrick is here. He is our expert on this subject tonight if you have any additional questions.
No.
Mr. Patrick, would you like to come up and field some questions?
Should we have any questions?
I don't know, but this is the first time he's been in front of us, so
It's true. Welcome.
I'm sure he was just hoping you would put him on the spot
I know.
today. He was just hoping you
Did
would.
Jerry not warn you that this happens?
It can't happen.
He's laughing
he
hard,
said.
so. Do we have any questions for Mr. Patrick at all? You have one, great. Okay.
Is the emergency power supply going to be coming from that generator at the Public Works facility, or it'll be a separate?
No, we currently have 2 generators at the wastewater plant, and this will just be sort of some wiring changes to one of them. So currently, we have the generator already in place, but it's not hooked up to everything it could be hooked up to. And so this will just be just kind of some electrical changes to, I guess, make it more effective during a power outage.
Yes, Councilor Marine.
So is this project going to impact the capacity of the facility, or is it just general improvements?
It's more general improvements. The power distribution building improvements is so we can operate better during power outages. The storage building will be just so we can organize our stuff better and protect it better. And the improvements to the pressate basin is more to make it easier for us to maintain and clean than to actually add capacity to the facility.
Have we ever had situations where we had discharge of untreated sewage?
Well, there's different levels of untreated sewage, right? So I don't believe we've ever had a time when it was completely untreated, but there are times where you may not meet every requirement for treatment. Like say you exceed your E. coli limit occasionally, or maybe you exceed some other requirement of the state.
So will these projects help us avoid that in the future?
Yeah, sort of. This one is kind of more of a, it may not help that much specifically for that, but in general, the capital improvement projects help us to do that.
Thank you.
Hey, John, can I just chime in too? Because if we're talking about whether we've been substandard in our water quality, what we want to make sure and address is the idea that DEQ is basically in constant contact with us and making sure that we stay within those standards. And if we ever exceed those, they get a hold of us and make sure we're doing it.
Right.
And that's a gentle way of saying by the Department of Environmental Quality getting involved is anything but gentle. So
Yeah.
But they do an awesome job.
yes.
Yeah, staying within DEQ standards, and there's numerous standards for numerous things that can't be in the water.
Very much so. Councilor Parker?
I just wanted to acknowledge your work during the ice storm. And there was some extraordinary efforts that went into that. It's part of the reason that I've supported a lot of the generators and backup. But you were the unsung heroes of that time when we lost our power for a couple of days. Mm-hmm. And boy, if that had gone down, it would have been a different situation. So you guys kind of do operate out of the limelight, but you were the real heroes that week. You guys worked long shifts and under uncomfortable situations. So thank you.
And, Mayor Hudson, just real quick, if I may, kind of tagging onto that in the vein of giving credit where it's due to the team, I would be remiss if I didn't mention Dave Connor, our plant manager, is not here this evening, was not able to come, but Dave has been with the city for a number of years and is really at the helm of the operations there, and they run a great operation. So,
Perfect. Councilor Spoon?
I'll make a motion if that's all right.
Okay.
I move to approve ordinance number 1591, authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract with Lee Contractors LLC, the amount of $773,000 for the 2022 wastewater treatment facility improvements project to come up for a second reading on December 21st, 2022.
Second.
Should that read 2023 wastewater improvement projects? So 2020 doesn't matter.
Thanks. So motion's been made by Counselor Spoon and seconded by Counselor Marine to approve ordinance number 1591, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract with Lee Contracts LLC in the amount of $773,000 for the 2023. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, 2023.
It is still
22-23 budget.
Thank you. Wastewater treatment facility improvements project coming up for a second reading on December 22nd.
No,
21st.
Get out here before they put me out there again.
Yeah. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That carries 5-0. Next up is resolution number 1378, a resolution to adopt the proposed City of Canby Parks Formal Capital Improvement Plan. Another step forward in our parks planning process.
Indeed.
Mr. Archer.
Yes, thank you again, Mayor Hodson. So yes, another important step forward in our parks improvements and tagging on to recent actions from the council to approve our Parks and Recreation Master Plan update, which was a very significant lift for the city and a huge accomplishment. We then followed on with Parks and Rec Board gave you some recommendations. Staff took those and we kind of refined that into what we saw as essentially our implementation plan, a number of items, including both capital and operational items. So not everything from the recommended list that you received from me, that extensive report that I gave you somewhat recently, not all that falls into this capital improvement plan because some of those are not capital items. Some of them are just operational or planning types of issues. So this is the formal capturing then of all of those the capital, which is anything that we do to improve or build the CIP, and the purpose of this is so that if you adopt this as the governing body, then it really gives us the true authority in conjunction with our budgeting process to go out and spend money on the projects that we've identified that we want to do. So keep in mind, please, that a CIP list is intended to be a living and fluid document that changes regularly. So while you'll have, this document that's in your report has numbers attached to it to each of the projects, those numbers may change and vary over time. We may move some things on and off the list. So just know that this is a document that can and probably will be revised over time, just like other CIP documents are. And a lot of times we do that in conjunction with our budgeting process. You'll see our CIP lists and those. So what we've attempted to do, and again, Mr. Nelzine is here tonight. Parks is also under the Public Works jurisdiction. Jerry and Jeff Snyder have worked to help pull this together and actually put some real numbers to these projects that we've identified as priorities and try to identify when we would want to carry those projects forward. So this really kind of finalizes that formality of saying, go ahead and begin to implement these projects and spend money on those. And it particularly helps us with our SDCs that we've had a lot of conversation around the use of the parks SDCs that we've been collecting for many years. And I know a number of you and other people are anxious to get moving on spending those. So this helps to formalize that. So we're just asking you to adopt this by resolution and we'll move forward.
Great. Any questions or comments? Councilor Banks?
I think she had her hand up first.
Councilor Spoon?
I just had a question about the community park master plan process and improvements. we had proposed, and I thought we were moving forward on bathrooms and stuff like that. That's not included in this. That's a separate project.
That's correct,
Okay.
yeah. So we are, and I think we'll have probably some updated info for council in the fairly near future that we actually, under your urban renewal agency jurisdiction, you authorized some funds and asked us to proceed on that. So we're working on those pieces right now. This is the longer term, really looking at a bigger overhaul of Community Park. So yeah, hope that clarifies.
Thank you. It does. My other question is regarding Maple Street Park. Have we done a master plan of that park? It's a $2.5 million to be investing in it, which I'm excited to do and I want to do it. But I think, we're talking about master planning Waite Park and master planning Community Park and spending $2.5 million on a park. Has that been master planned?
We have not. That was, there was stuff in the old master plan and CIP for Maple Street. And so we kind of were working off that, trying to, it seemed with the help of the Parks Advisory Committee, looking at getting that updated with the turf fields and stuff like that. We kind of just moved forward, put it in the CIP, and just to bring it forward for your guys' approval. Everyone else has kind of looked at it and said okay. So, but to answer your question, Councilor Spoon, no, there's been no recent master plan on Maple Street.
So I guess in conjunction with that, usually when you master plan a park, you get a lot of community input on what you want that park to look like. When was the last time we got community input specifically on what we wanted Maple Street to look like beyond the Parks Board?
I think we would have to get back to you on that one. It's been a while.
I'm excited to do the turf and to develop it and everything. I just want to make sure that when we do that, it's based on what the community wants to see.
Absolutely. Right now, what we've been doing is working with some firms, just getting some pricing to see what it would even cost. There's been no really commitment to do anything, but just looking and seeing what everything would cost to do these upgrades to it. So maybe our city administrator and I could talk and get back to you on
It seems to me that these are just upgrades to existing facilities. So, I mean, we've gone through and put in pickleball courts and a splash pad, removed the tennis ball, I mean, without any kind of master planning for that park. So turfing the fields and the netting project is either complete or underway.
It's underway. We were waiting on ordering the netting.
So those to me are more upgrades than necessarily
Totally.
worth a total master plan of Maple Street Park.
Maybe. I mean, I guess my question is then so if the netting's already done and whatnot, what makes up the $2.5 million? Because that's where my question is. At $3.2 million, we're master planning Waite Park. At this, we're master planning that. We've invested a good amount of money in Maple Street over the last few years. I'm really just curious, and what's that $2.5 million account for?
That's a great question. Yeah, we actually when we talked to him about if we were going to consider turfing the infields like that, that's a project that would, if we could start like in the next budget cycle. It couldn't happen now, so we're getting pricings on that. We're looking into potential maybe lighting, and then the other stuff is upgrading all of the playground equipment, ADA, all that, and then upgrading the old basketball courts in that park, and then potentially adding parking. And there's that Mr. Mayor, what's the name of the property that we purchased next to it that's in there where we were gonna, it's the piece next to it, it's kind of north of it, where we could maybe put in more pickleball courts, maybe a shelter or parking lot, additional parking for future needs, and so. But yeah, public input on any of that stuff, and that's what I think the Parks Advisory Committee will probably potentially do. But we wanted to have that money in there just to kind of finishing up Maple Park.
And I do think I think that's a very good point. But a lot of the improvements that are proposed in the whole CIP and then even specific to Maple Street are tied back to the master plan update. Some of them call out specific park sites, and some of them are generic. We need more turfed fields, for example, or whatever, or improving existing parks. So I think it all basically ties back to that. But it may not be specifically called out that, you want to do these things at Maple Street Park or some other park. I would note the first couple of years of the Maple Street money is mostly focused on the turf and I think the lighting recommendation, right?
Looking into pricing.
And then further out, that's where I goes back to my initial comment of that these things can be fluid and can be revisited as we kind of figure out how we want to do that and move through those processes. So about half of that money is out into future years where we'll have time to think about how we want to approach that. But yeah, that's a very fair point, actually.
And if I can maybe add to my 2 cents, which is the CIP really does, under the statute for SDCs, you have to have, capacity increasing construction or project, but you also then have to have a plan that has stuff in it. So just having these things out will help us redevelop our SDCs with our consultant, as well as this kind of gives us a roadmap. But each one of these has other decision points, so you'll have to budget them.
Yeah.
You'll have to come back and have contracts. So there's going to be a lot of even input from you guys on every single one of these as things go. So this is really an attempt at guesswork so that we can kind of work towards getting our SDCs a little more refined too.
Sure,
Yeah.
that makes sense. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions regarding the CIP for the Parks Master Plan? Okay, take a motion then. Thanks, Jerry.
Thanks.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I move to approve Resolution 1378, a resolution to adopt the proposed City of Canby Parks 5-year capital improvement plan.
I'll second that.
Great, thank you. Motion's been made by Councilor Marine and seconded by Councilor Bangs to approve Resolution 1378, a resolution to adopt the proposed City of Canby Parks 5-year capital improvement plan. Any further discussion or thoughts? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That carries 5-0. Thank you all, appreciate it. Moving into old business. Oh, I'm sorry.
Can we take a break? It's been 3 hours on the count.
Okay, we are going to take a 7-minute break here since we started at 6 and rolled right into our city council meeting. So we're going to take a quick break and then we'll reconvene in a couple of minutes here.
Welcome back, Canby. Thank you for letting us take a quick break. We're going to wrap up our agenda this evening. The next piece is to clear out some old business, and so kind of a 2-for-1 here in terms of shoring up or clearing up the vacancy appointment process, and then determining the December 22nd or 21st meeting, which was a carryover, but that'll be wrapped. But that could be potentially wrapped up pretty quick. I did miss the last meeting, but I did watch the meeting, and I just wanted clarify the process here in terms of, and I've had a lot of conversation with Joe and with Scott about what was laid out at the last meeting from a process standpoint, and wanting to understand what was laid out and how it was laid out, because my email that I sent out regarding this was trying to understand how we fill an appointment when we don't have a vacancy. So if your vacancy doesn't go into effect until the 23rd, how do we appoint somebody on the 22nd, and then how do we interview on the 21st? That's what I'm trying to wrap my mind around. Am I missing something? Like I said in my email, am I misinterpreting the charter? And my conversation with Joe was, no, we need to can't appoint somebody if there's not a vacancy. So I guess trying to clear that up, and then you mentioned, the early resignation kind of mirroring Councilor Roach's piece, but even when I went back and watched that process, when it came to the nights of the interviews, he was not involved, or he wasn't still in position at that time of the interviews.
Yeah, that appointment happened on October 26th, and Todd Roach's last meeting was the following meeting in November.
Okay, so, but when was the appointment made?
The appointment was selected October 26th, but if you watch the motion, he was actually to be sworn in after Todd Roach left his seat. That's how it was done.
So we couldn't swear them in until the seat was already vacant.
Yeah, but the appointee was selected, and the motion was something along the lines of to be effective on this date upon the vacancy.
Okay, so then what I understood was that with your resignation taking place on the 23rd but then holding interviews on the 21st, how do we swear in somebody on the 22nd?
No, I believe that my last day was the 22nd. I don't have it in, I could probably find it. I'm sure it's a Word document here. But that I believe exactly what
on the video, yeah, 21st, 22nd, 23rd is what I remember too.
Yeah, it was stated the 23rd. Friday the 23rd was going to be your effective date of your resignation. So that's why, there's that piece, and then
certainly the intent was that the person would be sworn in when the vacancy existed.
Right, so, okay, but again, then does that mean that you need to change your resignation date sooner? Because we can't fill the seat with an appointment if there's nothing vacant.
You can't swear in the appointment, but you can select the appointee. They just can't be sworn in until the vacancy exists.
Okay, but my understanding was in the course of the last meeting was that the idea was to bring the judge in on the 22nd to swear them in, if I remember watching the video correctly.
I would have to go back and watch the video, because that's not what I wrote. If that's what I said out loud, I would need to go back and.
It was purely the conversation after you made the announcement that you were resigning, that it became, there was a movement into the conversation of holding a special meeting, which was supported by Councilor Marine and Councilor Bangs. And then the layout was interviews on the 21st, swearing in, interviews and selection on the 21st, 22nd would be the swearing in, and then what you stated was your resignation date of the 23rd. And so that's where I'm stuck on. We can't do, based on what I understand the charter, I'm talking with Joe, there's no vacancy to appoint anyone to until the 23rd. So then do we boot that and make that person, because we had that conversation, so do we make that swearing in effective with the new councils coming in on the
for the first meeting in January.
Yeah, so the intent was, and if I need to go back and rewatch it and suggest a single date change, because the intent was my resignation would be effective on the 22nd, and then that person would be sworn in upon the vacancy existing. The reason I did it that way and not having him sworn in later is really because of the letter of the charter, which says there shall be 6 members of council. We have an opportunity to do that. The person cannot be a member of council until they're sworn in, and I saw no need to leave a period of time where there were not 6 members of council if we have the opportunity to follow the letter of the charter. So,
But I also believe that the charter states that shall be 6 members, and if there is a vacancy to be filled as quickly as soon as possible.
it doesn't say anything about as soon as possible, if I recall.
It's implicit in the idea of shall that you're trying to get always back to 6 members.
Right, get back to 6 members as quickly as.
We've operated on 5 short term before.
No, and my other question, and this for Joe, is when we look at, so in previous council resignations, you know, with the night that it's announced, then it's usually, we have, in the 12 years that I've been here, even when the process was when I was on the council or appointed to the council and interviewed, there was the resignations, and then the process was determined at the next, so it would have been tonight to discuss the process and dates and timeline of doing interviews and then appointing and et cetera. And so my understanding was for that process, or what was laid out was in need of being publicly noticed, which we did not do, because we just rolled into, and my understanding with Robert's Rules of Order is that we should have noticed that conversation for this meeting.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah,
That's
I
all.
had significant conversation with Joe, and in reality, no decision was made. A decision has to be noticed, but to just say that we would like to make a decision in the future doesn't have to be noticed, which is what we did. We were saying in the future we would like to make a decision, and that decision will be noticed.
Okay, but in terms of, but even posting and making a decision about the interviews, there was no process talked about that. I mean, usually that process is talked about at the next city council meeting in terms of that, and that was determined that night without notice, and then we posted the next day. So that's why I'm trying to.
That may be the way that we've done it in the past, but in my conversation with Joe, that wasn't necessary, and I was, Joe, I mean, we talked about that a number of times.
Well, and the long and the short of this is that Chapter 7 in our charter is woefully absent of the time, space, and manner with which this process takes place.
Sure.
It's clear that you have to have a vacancy in order to fill that vacancy by the language. It is absent of any indication of whether or not you can preemptively suppose that somebody's about to create a vacancy and then therefore kind of proactively take steps to do that. So
say that last part to me again, I'm sorry.
Well, the idea of whether you can do succession planning ahead of time, that it doesn't say yay or nay to that.
Sure.
And in fact, this council's exercised different ways of doing it because of that language. And as the city attorney, I want to make sure that my advice never offends this charter, because that's the powers. But all the powers lie, according to this, that aren't specifically ascribed with the council. So whatever the council says, if there's some area left up to interpretation, it's up to the council to say this is the process and this is how we want to do it. It's always helpful to look back at past decision making and the way you've done things for, I think, people, so that they can kind of know what to expect, and so fellow councilors know what to expect. But you guys could all have a conversation and say this is how we want to do it. As far as time, space, and manner of the way in which the appointment process can go forward.
So I appreciate the huge amount of gray in your explanation.
Okay.
I mean, that's just the way the charter's written. I get it, and that's what I'm trying and I've been trying to wrap my mind around, because the process has been, I mean, for Rocha, for Smith, for Bajoran, even the selection for Art was this process of we have a resignation. Next meeting, there's a conversation about the process and dates and times and how we're going to make that work to get that filled as quickly as we can. And I just didn't hear that and see that in last meeting's conversation. So I'm trying to, like, in the power rests in y'all. I totally get it. And if that's your call, that's your call. It just seems like we're taking maybe an oval peg into a round hole here to try to get something done, I guess, under the angle of we want to get back to 6 as quickly as we can. So,
and I'll say this, the parts that aren't great is you need a vacancy in order to fill a vacancy. And so you have to have the vacancy before the appointment technically takes place. And then even before a counselor can do anything, they have to take an oath of office. That's also, so you could exercise no powers, even if you're appointed, until you take that oath of office. But there's nothing that says that oath of office has to take place at the exact point of the appointment. So those two things can be separated out too.
Sure.
Just to be clear. Okay. But those are some of the only clear points in these, as far as the time, space, and manner with which you do the appointment process.
Yes.
I just wanted to remind the council that in the appointments of David Bajoran and Art Marine, the swearing in happened in a meeting subsequent to the appointment. Like, we didn't swear them in the night we appointed them.
Yeah.
No, I totally understand that. Absolutely. With every one of those appointments, it was the interview. It was then the next meeting, or in the case of Councilor Spoon used, Councilor Rocha, was after the date of his resignation. So no, I totally get that piece of it. My point was, in all of the times that we did we've had a counselor announce a resignation, we noticed and put on the agenda the next meeting a conversation about dates and times and process and whatnot, and that's not the case with this. And again, that's all y'all's call as a council. I
believe when Kim Ryder resigned and we appointed Clint Coleman, it was the same too.
Probably we can.
2 weeks later, we talked about it 2 weeks later, or 2 weeks to a month later.
And we've held special off night meetings to do the interviews.
So, in the two resignations that I've experienced in my depth of experience here now, when Jordan and then Bajoran resigned
too.
They resigned effective immediately.
Correct.
And that's not what happened here. So this process is a little different simply for that reason.
Well, they didn't. I mean, it wasn't an immediate resignation, but then again, it was noticed the next meeting to have the conversation of the vacancy and what steps we as a council wanted to take to fill that vacancy. And this all, in a set appropriate timeline, this all transpired in the course of one meeting.
Yeah, it did. I think I hear what you're saying. I don't think that just because it's been done a particular way in the past, that means we have to do it that way. I would even say that we have arguably the most qualified pool of applicants that we've had in my time on council. So I don't think that there was no harm came from doing it this way. We have a good pool of candidates. That there's plenty of time. People could have come in and given additional public comment, but at this point, we posted the position. We have applicants. I agree with you, Councilor Banks, that it is different because.
Gentlemen, thank you.
That it is different because in those cases that I was party to, now I wasn't on council when Todd Roach resigned. Everyone I've been party to, the person resigned effective immediately or within very short order, less than 30 days. And so there was no opportunity to follow the letter of the charter, which asks us to have 6 members. This is unique because this actually allows us, because the way in which I'm choosing to resign allows us to actually follow the letter of the charter. I think at some point I don't see any harm in doing it the way we're doing it. We have a good pool of candidates. I don't know why we're relitigating it. I understand you have questions, but I don't really see cause to relitigate it. I think council made a decision and charter says we can. So
I don't think I'm relitigating it. I'm just trying to see clarification because, again, we filled those positions, again, if we're following, the charter in terms of, that we return to 6 as quickly as we can. I know that's not spelled out that way, but we didn't have we didn't deliberately do delays of an extended period of time to fill those other seats. So again, my bigger, again, understanding the motives and desire to move so within the scope of one meeting to determine a process when that's not been the case, that's fine. Precedent is ambiguous at best and can be, it can be arbitrary. My backing up to the main point was, how do we follow that timeline when we don't have a vacancy until the 23rd?
Well, I'm happy to. I want to go back and watch it and see exactly what I said, because that's not what I wrote to say out loud. But after I go back and watch it, I'll be happy to amend my resignation to ensure that the vacancy exists prior to the person being sworn in. I'm happy to do that. If I said it incorrectly, it's because it was emotional. I'm happy to go back and watch that and see exactly what I said and amend. I want to do it appropriately. I'm not looking to have 7 members of council. That certainly wasn't my intent. I'll certainly go back and watch it. I will amend my resignation timeline accordingly and email everyone and make sure that it's whatever. But certainly the intent was that the meeting would occur on the 21st to select the appointee. My resignation would be effective on the 22nd, and that person would be sworn in upon my resignation becoming effective. So I'm happy to go back and watch that and see exactly what I said, because I haven't been able to. I haven't gone back and watched it, and make sure that all those of course I want to do it appropriately. I'm happy to go back and make sure all those timelines match up.
So so then I guess in terms of, I'm trying to keep in mind too, so obviously we now have business to conduct and take care of here on the 21st, so that pretty much takes care of the other items. So, but I guess moving in terms of the 22nd of bringing in, Gordon, staff, the judge, us on the 22nd to do a swearing in. Can that carry over and that person be sworn in on with the other it would, obviously you got the elected ones, but then now the appointed swearing in on the first meeting.
I talked to Joe about this at great length. Actually, the judge doesn't have to do a swearing in, just a notary does. And I thought the appropriate thing to do would be allowed to swear them in so we can follow the letter of the charter and do the ceremonial swearing in with the other counselors. But they can, Joe told me they can just come to City Hall and swearing in only has to happen with the notary, and then they can do the ceremonial swearing in. My intent was really just to follow the letter of the charter. If we have an opportunity to have 6 members on council as the charter asks us to, I think we should by all means do that. There's no reason to not do that.
Okay.
It is accurate under Oregon law. You just have to swear into a notary. So, I mean, if you wanted the idea of them to do some city business before the oath, you could have them sworn in, immediately. Or if you didn't think there was going to be city business until the next meeting, you could also wait till the next meeting too.
Well, barring an emergency meeting, the 21st would be the last meetings of the year.
Right, that's the case.
And with an emergency, the 5 of us and the mayor could probably weather anything that happens between Christmas and New Year's. I'm not sure why we wouldn't just do the swearing in when we do the other swearing ins.
Yeah, same, I agree.
Yeah, I think that's something we can just evaluate. I mean, when whoever makes a motion to appoint, that can be part of the motion to address that.
All right. Well, that clears that. It is what it is. So I guess looking at now the item B in terms of the council meeting on the 21st, I mean, based on.
We can't cancel it now.
We've got
$30,000.
We got to save $30,000, and we now have about 4 or 5 items for that evening. So I'll work with Scott to set up, we'll go set up the agenda and then conduct interviews as part of that evening. And then I know there was the ask, we'll make the special meeting that was called the decision process of who we appoint to the council. So we'll have the regular meeting, work meeting, and then the special meeting follow that. That's what we'll probably end up doing. So I'll work with Scott here on Tuesday to get that ironed out and get the packet ready for the 21st. So, okay. Any other comments on this? Are we good to move on? Yes, Councilor Banks.
Sorry.
That's okay.
So I didn't realize we had more on the agenda than just the appointment and now the cameras for the car. And so now I'm wondering, what should we start earlier? We don't know how many applicants we're going to have. We're up to 4 now.
Four.
But that could change in the next week or two. So maybe we could do the special meeting and then do the city meeting. We start at 6. I don't know. That's your call, but I'm just floating that. Like maybe we can start a little earlier than 7.
Everyone's thoughts on maybe a 6 o'clock start time to expedite the evening? Is that?
I'm fine with that.
That's
Yeah.
fine with me.
Yeah.
Okay.
My professional interest is that we're hosting a party that night, so.
You're
So
hosting
you
a
would like
party
to start
then?
at 2 p.m.?
It's a solstice. My wife always has a solstice party.
Okay.
If it's raining, I'm not going to be in that big a hurry, and maybe we can look at the weather.
There's snow in the forecast. I don't know for that day. All right, well, I'll work with Scott and if I know that I've got that flexibility to move to 6 o'clock, then maybe we'll do that so that we can get done sooner and be respectful of staff time with it being 4 days before Christmas. And, generally we try to not do a meeting, but, got to do what we got to do. Okay, cool. Then we'll move into, if there's nothing else on that, we'll move into mayor's business. I want to thank City Parks team and for the decorations on First Avenue and Waite Park for the Light the Night. The crowd was amazing. We had a huge, probably another, 3,000-4,000 people downtown for the event. It was amazing. Thank you for the added sound. The speakers at the, back of the crowd was super helpful. So I think, our parks team and then the economic development team of Jamie and Tyler did a great job with the event. And Greg Perez, who is here in the audience, did a great job as MC. So thank you, Greg, for doing that. I want to encourage everyone watching to please keep our local businesses in mind for your holiday needs, whether that's gift giving, party trays, etc. Please look to your Canby businesses first for your holiday party and gift giving desires. I also want to thank Hot Rod DreamWorks and all the Canby businesses participating in the snowman competition. If you've not had a chance to look at those and make your vote known, grab some hot chocolate, walk around and pick your favorite snowman or snow family or whatever is out there. There's a lot of pretty neat ones out there, so enjoy the lights at Way Park and pick your favorite snow person and snowman. The Canby Kiwanis Food and Toy Drive is underway. In years pre-COVID, we did a proclamation for the Canby Food and Toy Drive, and they missed it. I missed it. Can we make a note that next year we don't miss that proclamation and make it I'm looking at all the list. Scott, can you make sure that you put in your calendar that we don't miss that for next year?
Typically been the first meeting in December too, because we usually don't have to, but also gives us an opportunity to bring things in for the drive, and so, that would be nice to do that again.
But it is going on. There's various buckets around. The sorting is already underway. And then the big delivery and pickup of the baskets comes up on the 16th and 17th of December. So they're looking for volunteers to help. I think the goal is to help close to 500 families this year. So if you're willing to help out, get in touch with Kiwanis and they'll let you know what they've got available. Councilor Spoon?
Do you know how long people have to donate? Are they still able to donate if they have it in when that deadline is?
They are still able to donate, and I believe through, I think this weekend is the last time to be able to donate. So
cool. Thanks.
Yeah. On a business front, Clackamas County Coordinating Committee met last week, and they basically just had kind of a holiday gathering, so there was nothing really to report on that. And then the Region 1 Area Commission on Transportation met on Monday night. Basically, we had a review of the State Transportation Improvement Fund for the 23-25 project list. Canby is on that list for a request to get financial assistance to complete our update to the transit master plan. So I will be chipping and fighting for that as best I can. We had a brief update on the progress of the Highway 217 construction. So they're slowly moving towards I-5, and so expect huge delays at Denny, Allen, just all of 217. It's going to be a mess for the next 2 years. Yeah,
For eternity, really.
I know, I sit on those meetings and, the exit on, exit through where it went, like, I don't see it, because they tried it in Wilsonville, and it's still a bottleneck. We also had an update on the Abernathy Bridge and 205 construction. If you're interested in staying up to date on that, you can go to i205corridor.org, and you can watch the process and progress of that project. There is no parks meeting this month. We did have, so last month, which I wasn't at the last meeting to report on, we talked about discussion on the project list and what we just approved tonight in terms of the construction plan. And then we had the HOA president on the North Canby side that borders the what is the Simnett property was there. So they spoke about, we just had some dialogue about that's in the plans and the works, and so they were there to just kind of get a feel of what they might need to start to do to organize for that conversation. So some real positive things there. But now nothing until the new year. So I'm going to start down here with Mr. Marine. Surprise.
I don't have anything this time.
Okay. Brevity. Be bright, be brief, be done, right? Councilor Banks.
Nothing.
Okay. Council President Hensley.
Likewise, I don't have any council liaison assignments until later in the month. Actually, I only have one this month, next week, so
Okay.
no report.
Councilor Parker.
No meetings this month.
Okay. And Councilor Smith.
I don't have any updates. I would just love to encourage everyone to follow Ken and Melinda Buckles' Facebook page for the project they're doing. They should return home either today or tomorrow. And it's been pretty extraordinary to watch how many interactions they've had on the road with different veterans and kids and community members in general. So that was a really special thing for us in Canby, and the work they're doing is really special. So if you're on Facebook, I think his Facebook page is called Remembering America's Heroes. If that's not it, I'll come back with the correct name next time, or I'll pass it along. But really key into what they're doing, and I'm sure it's not their last adventure. So it's been a delight to watch them.
Awesome. City Administrator Business and Staff Report.
Very quickly, just wanted to echo the comments that were made about the outstanding job that our staff does on the lights and the Light the Night event. Couldn't be more proud of the team effort on that, and it's just such a great event. So thanks to everybody that was involved in that. And then the only other thing is just to let you know, Council, there's an updated list of those City Council goals and objectives as revised at your places. So we took away the old one and put the new one in there. And that's it. Thank you.
Excellent. Joe, do you have anything? No.
I attended Light the Night, and it is my favorite night in Canby. I'm always so super proud. And anybody I talk to, I always say Gilmore Girls reference, which is probably going to get older and older and older. But that star is hollow with the gazebo in the middle. This town always delightfully reminds me that we look like a little Hollywood Americana town every time we do it. And it gets a little bit better every time. The surround sound and the lighting wasn't completely annihilated by squirrels. And so I was just super happy to be there and super proud to be a Canbyite, because I live in this town now, so I get to do stuff like that more.
Awesome. Melissa, do you have anything? No? All right.
Pick around.
Any other, no new yellow cards for citizen input? Okay. Action review.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, though.
Do you want to come up here, sir, and identify yourself, Mr. Sassy? Thank you for filling out a yellow card. I really appreciate it.
Well, usually you just say, anybody got anything to say?
Yeah, I didn't feel like that tonight.
What do I push? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we're good.
I just have a question. As far as the vacancy, we just had an election. And I really feel sorry for all those people that spent the money, took the time, did the interviews and all that stuff. Could we not just take the next vote getter and put, which would be Mr. Parker? I mean, And if he chooses not to, can't we just go up the list that way? Is that out of our charter, or is that just too much common sense?
That actually was proposed in previous
Counselor Spoon, yeah.
No, that's been proposed in the past, and actually it's really interesting because I wasn't on council last time that happened, but the appointment of Tyler Smith happened less than 2 weeks before the election, and a lot of people had that same question. Why can't we just wait to see what the public thinks? And the person that was appointed, and really only one of the 5 people that applied for that appointment even were running for office. So the person that was selected for the appointment wasn't running. And I think, Councilor Hensley said it best at the time that the appointment process and the election process are 2 completely different processes. The charter treats them different. So if this council were to choose to appoint the next vote getter or someone else, that's fine, but they're really just different processes. And that's what y'all determined in previous times. And I think too, there have always been good candidates that have applied for an appointment that didn't run for office. There are a lot of reasons someone might not run for that office that are no longer, you have to decide to run for office in like August.
Yeah.
If your life changes between August and December, I don't think that should preclude you from applying for that appointment. So I hear you. I mean, I was surprised last time when the person selected was not someone that was running for office, but they are just different processes.
I just think I'd rather hear from the people than from, nothing against you 6 or 5, but I think the people's voice is a bigger voice than 5. So I just wanted to know.
No, I appreciate you asking the question. Thanks, Scott. Any other citizen input?
Don't look at me, I'm fine.
Really?
Whatever.
Let me write down the date that Jason said he was fine.
I filled you in on the Christmas tree prices, so that's that.
I know, I was shocked. All right, action review.
All right, you have passed ordinance numbers 1589, 1591, and 1592 to second readings on December 21st, 2022, and adopted ordinance number 1590 and passed resolution number 1378.
Perfect. I will take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Canby, all those in favor? Sorry. Canby, have a great night, and we'll see you December 21st.